Now, this is still a Go Best meeting. So what do we always start off with the Go Best meeting? Our what? Our mission statement. Exactly. So let's go, everybody. We deliver an immersive adventure, harnessing masterful showmanship, outrageous service, and an
over the top experience.
Exactly. All right. So before we go any further, I want to break this down. So I break this down into my group. So we're not going to go through the whole thing because my team knows we'll spend a whole hour just on the mission statement alone, right? But I want you guys to think about it. Think about when we talk about delivering an immersive adventure, what does that mean? So somebody say one thing that means when it talks about delivering an immersive adventure. What does that mean for you? Anyway.
It kind of resembles stepping away from, like, you know, when they say leave your problems at the door. It's like when you step into that particular establishment, whether it's a Deja Vu or a Hustlers, it's you're separated from your norm and you're headed into like a fantasy or a dream or something that you want to achieve.
Exactly. So when we talk about delivering on a fantasy, right? That means from the moment our guests come into the parking lot, that fantasy needs to start. They need to be completely immersed into the fantasy. They need to be able to forget their troubles. They need to be able to do all of those things we talk about on the 6 reasons guests visit our clubs, right? Or our venues. So that's an immersive adventure. It also means, yes, thanks, Cam, engaging the guests with hospitality. I wish I could read the whole note. Let me see if I can see the whole note.
I can't see it either.
Let's see.
Engaging the guests with hospitality and a fantasy.
Exactly. Fully engaged. So that is why we call those that work with us in the venue a cast. What does that mean, a cast? Why do we think we say cast and not staff?
Those are our stars.
Those are our stars, exactly, right? So a cast in television means characters that create a fantasy, right? Every television show you watch that's not reality TV, well, in some cases, reality TV, every movie that you see, you're being embraced in that 30 minutes to 2 hours, 3 hours, in some cases, into a fantasy, right? Where you are completely oblivious or supposed to be completely immersed into this world so that you believe that that's really happening in the story, right? So you want to do the same thing when your guests come into your club. They need to be completely immersed into this other world. And that's why it's called a cast, because everybody is performing, not just the entertainers. Managers are performing, waitresses are performing, bar backs are performing. Everybody is performing and taking part in creating this fantasy for our guests. So what's the next part? Harnessing masterful showmanship. What does that mean? Someone, not Marcus, because he already piped in. Cam went inside on the chat. So who else? What does it mean by when we say masterful showmanship?
Best show that you can put on.
The best show, exactly. It has to be masterful showmanship. It has to be over the top. We'll talk about over the top experience. It has to be something that is just outer worldly, something they don't expect. Outrageous service. What is outrageous service? Someone that's not Reggie or the people who've already piped in. Come on, outrageous service. Well, I'll tell you this example. Tammy, Kira, and myself, we went to dinner last week, and we went to this restaurant, and we experienced outrageous service. The owner of the restaurant came over. He saw that the rice that we ordered wasn't prepared to his standard, or, it came out, it was beautiful, but it wasn't prepared right. Like, we didn't know that we had to mix it to make it delicious. The owner came over, mixed up the rice for us, and served us. We're going back because of the outrageous service. The food was delicious, but just that level of attention, that is outrageous service. So think about how you and your team are delivering on that promise of outrageous service in your venue. And then the last part, an over-the-top experience. So we're combining all of those things, the immersive adventure, the masterful showmanship, the outrageous service, and we're creating this over-the-top experience. What is an over-the-top experience? Anybody at this point? What is an over-the-top experience?
Always beat expectations.
Always beat expectations. Absolutely. So they're going to come in. They know that they're going to get a drink. They know that they're going to get, decent service. So you've got to go out of your way to give them something that they weren't expecting. That's how you deliver an over-the-top experience, because it's an over-the-top experience that's going to get them to do what? That word-of-mouth marketing, that very cheap way of marketing that is also the most effective. That's going to get them to go on their Instagram, their social media, and talk about the outrageous service or the experience that they had. That's when they're going to talk to their friends. Oh, next time you're in Vegas, next time you're in Lansing, you have to go here. Next time you're in North Hollywood, you've got to go here. That's what gets them talking. And that's what gets us the free advertising. All right. Okay, let's go to the best factor. All right. The excitement a guest feels from the moment they discover our venue, which reignites every time they what?
Remember their experience.
Absolutely. So that excitement a guest feels when they discover our venue. When do they discover us?
Social media.
On our social media, our billboards. If they happen to be driving past our venue, it's our signage. So we have to make sure that all of that is exciting. Make sure you're looking at your social media. Make sure you're looking and making sure your signs are well lit. Make sure your parking lot is beautiful, because that's when they're discovering our venue. Reignites every time they remember their experience. That's those times where you guys, whether it was a movie or an experience that you had, every time you thought about it, you're like, oh my gosh, and you get so excited again, right? That is what we are trying to create, that type of experience when they're in our venues. And how many shots do we get sometimes?
One.
You get one shot. So that means from the moment they walk in, your time has started. Okay. All right. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this training. This is a situational leadership crash course, because again, it's the whole book and I only have 45 minutes, including the introduction and everything else. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. What is situational leadership? What is leadership in the 1 minute manager? Go next slide. What is it going to do? This is going to boost your leadership skills by teaching practical strategies to improve leadership effectiveness. This is going to enhance team performance. So like we talked about in June, that sense of belonging with your cast. Matching leadership styles to team members' needs improves their performance and satisfaction. It costs more to recruit someone in than it does to retain someone, all right? It creates a positive environment, encourages clear goals, timely praise, and constructive feedback, boosting morale. How many of you love it when someone tells you how great you did a year later? Yeah, no one, right?
I love it.
A year later?
Yep, I love it every day. Doesn't matter if it's a year from now or today.
Well, most people like to have it in the moment. Most people like to have it when it happens, because that's going to create the next time that they want to do something more, something different. You tell me a year from now how great I did a year ago, you may have gotten something even better, right?
I see it that way. I got you.
What about creates a positive environment? Oh, we talked about that. Promoting adaptability, equips leaders to be flexible and responsive in diverse situations. Our cast is diversifying because our guests are diversifying, right? We have people from all different levels, from all different states, countries, etc. So we have to make sure that we can respond in these situations. It supports organizational goals. Effective leadership drives productivity and success. Develops future leaders. That's why you are all here, preparing the next generation of leaders with these proven principles. Sorry, I was covering up the slide. All right. So our objectives today, we're going to understand the key principles of the 1 minute manager. We're going to learn about situational leadership and its application. And we're going to practice setting goals, giving praise and feedback. So that's why I was asking you guys, please be on camera, because we're going to be talking back and forth and you guys are going to be giving examples. Okay. All right. So the overview. With the 1 minute manager, it really is about setting 1 minute goals, 1 minute praising, 1 minute reprimanding. Can we slide up on yeah. Okay, that's fine. All right, next slide. Okay, so when 1 minute goals, these are clear, concise, and specific goals. So when you're talking to your castmates, again, I understand the nightlife, people are going everywhere. Whether you've had a rally or you haven't had a rally, and you just got a couple of minutes to talk to an entertainer or a showgirl or a waitress who's moving, right? That's the 1 minute. So how can you give a clear and concise goal in 1 minute? Very simple. Hey, we need to increase guest count from 10 to 15 per night over the next week. All right, that's the goal. It says everything. It's clear, it's concise, it's specific. It is saying we need to increase guests. How many guests? From 10 to 15. So that means we need to increase the guests by how many per night? 5 over the next week, timed. So you said a whole lot in 1 minute. Can someone give me another example of a clear, concise 1 minute goal?
I can go. Daryl out of Tampa. Manager, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Daryl?
I'm doing good. Saturday, I just told all of the waitresses everybody needs to sell a minimum of 50 drinks and 2 hookahs. And it was
There
clear.
you
And,
go.
yeah.
Clear,
You guys
concise,
rocked it.
and tonight. And then what, Tammy? What did they do?
They did awesome last week. I wanted to tell them, fabulous job. Fabulous
Thank
job.
you.
Wednesday, fabulous job on Saturday. That's what we want to see every single week. So
Absolutely.
job.
But I love how you did that, right? You broke down the goal. So Tammy, Jason, your leadership, your owner, etc., will send out these goals, mostly from Jason. You need to get $10,000 tonight, right? You as a manager, get those goals. How do you break it down for your team? Because if you just tell your team, hey guys, we got to do $10,000, that doesn't give them a whole lot. So what this 1 minute goal is, breaks it down. You break it down, $10,000. Okay, so $10,000 equals 50 dances.
It's one of your servers
12
break it down
drinks.
for them.
Exactly. You break it down. So when you're talking to your host, okay, we know now we have to get 50 rooms tonight, right? So you tell your host, hey, we need to get 50 rooms tonight. You tell your waitresses, we've got to sell 50 drinks tonight. They can count that. They can understand that. And you're going to be more likely to achieve that goal because you've broken it down for them.
I mean, I don't want to interrupt because I know you only have 45 minutes, but one of the
It's
things
okay.
that I try to preach, and Cameron does this as well. I have a set of where a minimum I want my guest count. So I want a minimum of $60 per guest. So what we'll do is say, okay, this is what our goal is. If it's $60 per customer, I'm going to take our nightly goal. I'm going to divide that by 60. That's the guest count that I need. So we start from there. And then we'll start breaking down the revenue areas. And so we'll have our entertainer allocations, we'll have our bar, then we'll have our door. So we'll allocate so much, like a 5% with, free passes, so that we know, okay, this is how many VIP cards that we need to get at the door tonight. So everybody has a set goal for each station.
Right. No, Tammy, you're perfectly okay, because the next bullet is participants set a relevant goal. So that's exactly what you've done, and you've broken it down. So that's what we're encouraging you all to do. When you guys get these sales goal, then break it down, and then break it down into profit centers, break it down into revenue centers, and then tell your cast. Don't just overwhelm them. Hey guys, we got to get $10,000. They don't know what that means, but they know what it means. If you say, all right, you have to get 10 rooms tonight. You need to get 20 balloon pops. You need to sell 5 mocktails. You need to sell 10 drinks. It's very, very easy. And what they're going to do when they achieve that goal, you're going to do the next thing, which is, next slide, praise them. Great job on unselling, Jamie. You answered all the guest questions confidently, and they bought a package. Great job, Jamie. You reached your 10 drink goal. Great job, Tammy. You did your 10 dances. It takes 1 minute to give them praise. Activity, practice giving praise. Go ahead, Tammy.
I think with managers continuously being on the floor, which is where they should be, you're paying attention to what each cast member is doing. So if they do get that mocktail, that first mocktail, give them a high five, because that gives them more ammunition, more fire to go out and accomplish the goals that you have set.
Absolutely. And more than likely, they may come back. It's only 9 o'clock and you've already done your 10 drinks. Let's go for another 10. Because now we're talking about overachieving the goal. And we all know what happens when we get to 20% over the goal. Bonuses, right? So you did 10, you can do 15. Oh my gosh, it's only 11 p.m. You've already done 15. Go for 30. And then you also know that the next time you can raise the bar a little higher. So instead of starting off with 10, you already know they can sell 10 in 2 hours. Then make it 15, make it 30. Give them a stretch goal of 50. Okay? All right. Next slide. And then there's the other side, right? So 1 minute reprimands. Do you need to beat them down if they didn't do something right? No, they know they didn't. So there's no need to beat them down. Hey, I noticed your report was late, delayed our review process. Let's ensure it's next time. Now, this is quick, but it's also specific. I noticed your monthly report was late, delaying our review process. So not only did you do something late, but this is how it affected everyone else. And then you push them, let's ensure it's on time next time. So now they have a direct delivery. Next time, it's got to be on time. So if you have to tell them again, it's not a surprise. No need to beat them down. No need to constantly say, yeah, it was late. No, it's late. It's always late. It was late yesterday. It's going to be late today. No need. They know it's late. Tell them, but give them the why. Most people love the why. They understand the why. Why do you need this on time? Because I need it on time so we don't have to pay more, et cetera, et cetera. If they know that and they understand it, they understand how they affect the bottom line, how they affect the performance of the team. What's another way we can reprimand quickly? Any examples out there? I know this is the hardest one, so I'll give you guys an example. Let's say you have someone who's consistently late. How would you recommend using the 1-minute manager if someone was consistently late?
Nobody's answering you on this one.
I know.
I was gonna say along the lines of like, hey, hey, I've just noticed that you started to, like every day or every so often, you're coming in later than your scheduled time. Should we push back your time to come in later, or do you think it's going to be a continued issue? I hope that's a good one.
I don't think I would allow.
Go ahead, Tammy.
I think if you're asking if you need to push back later now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the only problem I have with that is now I feel like my cast is running the show and I'm not.
Well, the reason why I said that is because it also offers like if there's something going on within your personal life, I care.
I think that how the approach that I take on that is, hey, I've noticed that you've been excessively late for your shifts. I can't tolerate that. I need you here. You're a very important part of our cast. And that's why I schedule at the times that I do. Is there something that can be done to correct this matter? I kind of will do hey, this is the problem, but I want to kind of make sure they know that I appreciate their hard work and dedication and then kind of go back to it. So it's kind of like the sandwich roll. Cam is going crazy in this right now.
Oh, okay. Cam, it's not like you have to be late. It's not like you to be late this often. Is everything okay? Love that. Redirect, reprimand sounds negative. I agree. So is everything okay? Right. But you also, again, we talked about giving them the why. Like, why is it important that they are on time? Right. If it's a bartender, it's important that they're on time because the guests have gone without drinks. Right. If it's the showgirl or the entertainer, there's no entertainment if you're late. Make sure that they understand their stake into what's happening for the overall fantasy for the guest. And it doesn't matter the venue. If you don't have a cashier at the boutique because they're late, that means you're going to miss sales. Really, at the end of the day, with any of those, at some point, you're going to miss sales. If the manager is constantly late, somehow there's going to be a missed sale. If the waitress is late, that could be a missed sale. If your host is late, it's going to be a missed sale. So again, make it make sense to them. Make sure that they understand their stake in it. At the end of the day, everybody wants to either move up, get bonus, more money, etc. If you're late, that doesn't show me that you are committed to this role. It doesn't show me that you're committed to this position. So sure. I like Cam's example. Hey, it seems like you're late more often than not. Is everything okay? All right, we have to make sure that as a team, we're all together because we don't want to, we have to deliver an over-the-top experience for our guests. We have to give them outrageous service. And if you're late, we can't do that as a team. That sound good to everyone? Make sense? All right. Go to the next one. Okay, so I talk about situational leadership all the time. This is where I'm really excited. Again, the 1-minute manager is very quick, very easy to reprimand, very easy to praise, and setting goals. Situational leadership is identifying the 4 development styles and matching your leadership style, directing, coaching, supporting, and delegating to those styles. Okay, so let's break it down. Let's talk about the 4 developmental styles, D1 to D4. Your D1 is an enthusiastic beginner. They have low competence and high commitment. Those are your new hires. You know how you guys have seen them. When they first come in, they are excited. They want to take over the world, but they have no idea what they're doing. That's a D1, right? You have them. Those are the new hires. And then your D2s are the disillusioned loner. They have some competence, but low commitment. So they are, let's see, thank you. Perfect. So a D1 is someone who has some experience, but they're overwhelmed with the complexity of what's going on. So you've seen those too, right? Where you've taught me how to serve, but now there's like 100 guests all at one time, and it gets overwhelming. That's the D2. D3, they're capable but cautious. So they have a moderate to high competence and a variable commitment. So D3s are an experienced employee, but are hesitant about taking on, the responsibility of it. So those are sometimes your MITs. So they're excited and they clearly have some high competence because you've identified them as an MIT, but they're, for various reasons, they're a little afraid of going the next step or going any further. Is this making sense so far? And then the last one is your self-reliant achiever. They've got high competence and high commitment. This is your person who all you have to do is tell them the goal. I need an event Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and you already know it's done. They know how to do it. They're committed to it. And they're excited. So D1s and D4s have all the excitement in the world, and your D2s and D3s have various levels of fear. Make sense? Let's break down the situation or the leadership style. So leadership style. D1 leadership, that's high directive, low supportive. What do you guys think it means when I say high directive? It means you're telling them exactly what to do. You're going to take this car from point A to point B. You're going to park the car. You're going to get out of the car. You're going to walk to the store. You're going to walk into the store. You're going to purchase the product. You're going to pay for the product. You're going to get back into the car and meet me back at the club at 3 p.m. That is high directing. That's the hand holding, right? D2 coaching, high directive, high supportive. High directive, that is, thank you. You're providing ongoing support, you're clarifying expectations, and you're helping them develop their strategies to manage their own workload. So you're still telling them exactly what to do. You don't have to tell them every little step, but you're supporting them. Oh, instead of saying, okay, I need you to get into the car, you're now telling them, hey, when you get in the car, make sure that you X, Y, and Z. Okay? D3 is supporting. It's low directive, high supportive. So now you don't have to tell them to get into the car to go to the store. At this point, you can tell them to go to the store, but you're probably also telling them, make sure you're back at 3 o'clock. Okay? So the first one, you're telling them every single step. The second one, you're supporting them at every single step. A D3, you don't have to tell them every little step, but you're still very supportive. And then D4 is delegating, where you just say, hey, I need you to pick up X, Y, and Z, and that's it. And they know how to get in the car. They know how to go to the store. They know exactly what they need to purchase. They know what time they need to be back. Okay. So now let's talk about matching those leadership styles. Okay. So a D1, I use this example with some people. If I was to tell you to tie your shoe, everybody can tie their shoe, right? Raise your hand if you can tie your own shoe. Awesome, right? Now, how many of you would be upset if I told you exactly how to tie your shoe when I'm telling you to tie your shoe?
Me.
Right? Because you already know how to tie your shoe. So if I'm using a if I'm using a D1 leadership style with a D4 if I'm using a D4, nope, I was right. A D1 leadership style with a D4 competence style, what do you think that creates? Frustration. Raise your hand if you love being micromanaged on everything you do, especially the things you know how to do. No one? Now, how many of you love being directed and told exactly what to do with new things you've never done before? Everybody, right? Because you want exactly. So when that's the D1 leadership style. When you get an opportunity to learn something and and you're correctly matched with the leadership style, a D1 leadership style, with that same match. That's when things are fun, they're exciting, and you feel fully supported. Is this making sense? Oh, I see some. Oh, nope. Is that me doing the thumbs up? I forget about these new things on Zoom. So it really is about matching the leadership style. So give me an example of someone perhaps who would be a D2 in their D2 style. So this is a person who has some competence, but low confidence. What would be an example?
From our cast or somebody?
From your cast or anybody. So this is probably someone maybe 2 or 3 months into the role. Would you agree? So they've gone through some training.
Yes.
And they're not quite, they're still a little hesitant to actually go and do a balloon pop themselves, or, they don't want to work with a guest themselves yet. You recognize that?
The server.
A server, yep. So what kind of leadership style do you think would work best? Or give me an example of how you would lead someone who's like, okay, I think I know how to use the POS system. You've taught me for a couple of weeks now. I've got a ring and a VIP card. How would you coach them through that?
I believe, is that D2 coaching?
That is
with
D2.
High and high. Yeah.
High supportive, yes. How would you coach them through putting in their first VIP so you can move them from a D2 to a D3? Would you tell them?
Tammy, what do you think?
I'm waiting for you guys. How would I show them how to bring up a VIP?
Yeah, so you've taught them before, and they're just nervous. They're doing it on their own. They don't want to mess it up because you showed them when their first week, and maybe their second week.
While I stood there and watched over them to make sure it was accurate.
But how would you respond to them? So this is this coaching is high supportive and also high directive. So would you say, okay, you should know this by now?
No, would not do that.
Not at all.
Yeah, I would not do that.
Right?
I'm going to ask, but not that big of one.
Exactly. So when you're highly supportive, what are some of the adjectives you would use? You'd be encouraging. You would be excited as well, right? Because you still want to maintain the fun. You would give them, this is where you really want to lead by example, right? So you want to ask them, okay, well, what makes you uncomfortable? Let's see if we can work this out together. Make sense?
What about walking them through it? I just feel can you hear me? I'm in my car, I'm sorry. I just feel as a manager, you want everybody to you want everyone to be comfortable with coming to you. So if you was to take the approach and you say certain things like, I showed you this 2 weeks in a row, that's going to discourage them. And then now they're going to start making more mistakes because they don't feel comfortable coming to you. So just, hey, what do you remember so far from last time we spoke about this? Or let's walk through it and then we'll practice it a little bit more just to kind of get them more comfortable with doing it, because we creatures of habit. So just being able to, that muscle memory, just to keep doing it over and over until they become, perfect at it, or as close to perfect as possible.
So keep in mind, at this level, you need to increase their confidence and their competence, right? So I would suggest you start by asking them, okay, so what part of it do you remember? And when they put their finger on whatever they do, you want to give them so much encouragement and, oh my gosh, great job. You want to give them that. And so then you're going to coach them and give them more of the directive on the things that they don't know. So if they remembered how to swipe the card, you're going to praise them. If they remembered how to put in the amount, you're going to praise them. If they remembered how to put in their name, you're going to praise them. And for things that they don't, you're going to show them exactly what to do. So both their competence and their confidence goes up. Because again, we want to take D1 learners to become D4 learners. As a review, what's a D1 learner? They have high what?
What's the word? Oh.
They have high excitement, but low competence. Right? So they're very excited. They're ready to learn. So if you have an eager beaver, what's the best leadership style you can do? You have to be very what? Supportive. Okay, Zoom is like really, Zoom is doing the most. So did you guys see the fireworks?
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
So if you have an eager beaver, if you have someone who has low confidence, you want to make sure that you are high on supporting. Okay. Now, what if you have someone who has high competence? Do you want to be high on directive or low on directive if they have high competence?
Low directive.
Low on directive. Those are the people you can just tell them what to do. So a D3 has moderate to high competence, but they have low confidence. How do you coach? How do you lead that person? If they have low confidence, remember you have to have high what? Support. Okay. So if their confidence is down, you have to lift up the support. If their competence is down, you have to lift up your directive. Does that make sense? But if they're high on the competence, you can be less directive. If they're high on their confidence, you can be less supportive. When you're less directive and less supportive, that is delegating. And that means you trust them. Now, should you trust and delegate to someone who has has a low confidence and low competence? No, because that means their commitment level is down. So there's competence and commitment. Those are the two things that determine your learner. If they have high commitment, that's the eager beavers, but they have low competence. So I say commitment and confidence, kind of the same thing, but competence is low. Competence is what? The ability is their ability level, right? Competence is their ability level. So it doesn't mean they can't do it. No, it just means they don't know how. So if you as a manager identify by delegating and you find out someone has a low level of competence, what do you have to shift your directive, right? Because keep in mind, all of this, and you'll learn more about this in the book, all of this is related to the task. These are task specific. And that's the part I don't have a lot of time to get into, but just understand these are task specific, because at every level, your cast member is going to have varied levels of learning. So they can be a D4 when it comes to creating events, and they can be a D1 when it comes to reading reports. Does that make sense? So in some areas, you're going to have to be more supportive. And in some areas, you have to be more directive, or less supportive, or less directive. Is this making sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about some examples. Let's say you have a manager who has they've been there with you for 10 plus years. And you can delegate most things to them. You can delegate opening up, you can delegate closing, you can delegate speaking with your cast and having meetings. But then you get a new assignment, or you create a new assignment, and you ask them, hey, I need you to create a scheduling program. And they tell you, I have no idea what I'm doing. What do? You reprimand them for not knowing everything because they're a manager and they've been there for 10 years? You now have to what? So you've delegated everything to them and it's always been great. Now you have to do what?
Direct them.
You have to direct them. You've got to adjust your leadership style. Does it mean they're not competent? Does it mean that you can't trust them? It just simply means this is something new that you have to show them, and you have to adjust your leadership style. You have to take that task, that learner, from a D1 to a D4 on that task. So do you guys see how your leadership style can change with one person? You can delegate most things. You can delegate someone going to the bathroom pretty easy, right? Unless they're brand new, because then you have to tell them what?
Where the bathroom is.
Where the bathroom is. Any other examples you guys want to talk about? So the other thing I suggest, because we've got to wrap it up. The other thing I suggest is when you are looking at a different leader, if you're looking at a learning style and you're developing a learning style and taking someone from a D1 to a D4, remember that it is task oriented. And also remember how you would feel if someone came to you and told you that they needed to do something and you didn't know how to do it. Would you want to be beaten over the head for not doing it? No. So treat people like you would want to be treated. That's kind of the golden rule anyway. All right. So like I said, I've got some study guides that I will send out, and the book is less than $15 on Amazon. It's a great read. It'll go more in depth as far as like the task and, how to adjust, and give you different examples of the 1 minute praising and the 1 minute reprimand and the 1 minute goal setting. And then I love talking about this book. All right. So I'm going to open it up for any questions that you guys may have. And this can be anything.
Are you sending out the study guides to all the directs?
Yes. Well, I'm sending them out to all of the people on our team, Tammy. And then you guys can send it out to your directs. Yes.
Okay.
Was this interesting? Did anybody learn something? Good. All right. So now I'm going to ask everybody, what's one thing you learned today? And I'm going to start with who I see, which is Reggie.
Switch over your leadership style on different. What I learned was, if there is a new task, you have to adjust your leadership, your task when there's something new. It's just give more time to the people that give more time to your cast that doesn't understand. And it's the way you do it with them when they don't understand.
Oh, the one part that I forgot, I want to add. So the D2 and the D3 learning styles, because they have that's where the commitment shifts, their excitement, all of that shifts. That is when you can lose them. So you want to make sure that when you have a learner in the D2 and the D3, that you are focused on supporting them. That's when we lose them. You lose people in that D2, D3. So you want to make sure you are matching your support with their commitment. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's that tricky period.
Cameron just wrote that. Adjusting your leadership guidance to different levels of commitment, enthusiasm, and support needed.
Absolutely. Also learn to positively redirect the cast member and put them back on the right path. Great job, Cam. All right. Nessa, did you learn anything today? You can't get off mute. Let's see if I can take you off.
There it goes.
Oh, there it goes.
Sorry, I have multiple mute buttons just in case. No, like with going over the mission statement initially at the beginning and everything, breaking that down on those, that did help on some of the outrageous service and over the top experience, just getting the exact definitions for that did help a little bit. And then the 1 minute manager, I do have that on my Amazon list.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus, what's one thing you learned?
I was kind of piggybacking off what Cam said in the chat. That was my takeaway, was kind of like really looking at your cast and just it's really like reading the room, taking a look at your cast and taking a step back and seeing what position everyone's in at that point in time in their not status of employment, but like their, like what point they're at right now, and then adjusting your leadership to that and catering to their needs. Just because having multiple conversations with your cash, you can kind of see where everyone's head's at, and just kind of applying it from there.
Yeah. And I would say, from what I gathered from North Hollywood so far, we've got a lot of D2s, D3s. I see some people coming into D4s as far as their commitment levels. So, that's why it's so important right now in your club. It's being supportive, and, your enthusiasm, I believe, helps a lot bring that particular club into the D4s as far as their commitment. Right.
Shout out to North Hollywood on Saturday, because y'all did amazing.
Right. I was like, oh, shoot. Great job, North Hollywood.
Dollar dances and everything.
That is fantastic.
What did they do?
Cruise control. I was
and
like,
they did it. And they did it without a DJ, guys.
Awesome job.
Oh yeah, and we got really good feedback from our entertainers yesterday. Because even though yesterday was our breather to just be like, y'all, we made it through the week. Next week's a new week. They were like, no, to be honest, you two are doing a great job. Like, I'm on the microphone, he's controlling the music. I'm still at the door on the microphone, but it's
you guys were phenomenal together. Phenomenal.
That is exciting.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely different. You got to look at it as it's a party atmosphere. And if there's nobody on the mic and creating that energy on the floor, we'd have more fun being in a morgue. You got to look at it as, why would somebody pay for this? It's not any fun. Your job is to captivate them, get them to want to stay, not to watch their watch to see what time it is, and it's so hard to get locations to understand that. Cameron's a madman, and Adia and I have the greatest story about him, but he loves it. He loves being on the mic. He loves engaging. He loves getting the guests involved in the show. So that's what gets word of mouth, so that people are positive and happy and spread the word about how great your establishment is, and it gets returning guests. So I'm proud of you. That's awesome.
Kind of like,
time, you guys are crushing it.
Thank you. It's kind of like it's kind of cool, but also not like disrespectful to the guests at the front of the door. Like when I'm jumping on the microphone in between a transaction and they're like caught off guard a little bit, but they're like, oh, okay, the party is like, it's still going on. They're like trying to go around the corner. So it's still a pretty nice aesthetic. So I like it. It's great.
Good. Well, congratulations again. I was very excited to see your numbers on Saturday.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for everybody. That's just great. North Hollywood, Tampa. I'm excited. This is an exciting. I'm excited.
Good job,
about
everybody.
All right, who's next? I think that's Stefan.
Yes, you're one minute manager. Love it.
Thank you. Awesome. All right, let's see who's next. I know there's some more on here.
I can go.
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
Okay, perfect. So we have a waitress, and at first it kind of came off as she always asked a lot of questions. And Mark had to put me to the side and say that she's one of those people that's committed and she's eager. So she needed to be fed. Like, she needed information. She needed you to explain why things were in place, the policies and rules, and why we do what we do, and how to make it a party. So, getting her more involved, having her go over certain inventory things that we needed, or giving her a whistle to hype the crowd, and just kind of getting her more and more involved. And I think she's doing way better, because not to say I didn't blow her off, but now I take more time with her, because I coach Little League. So I already know, or I realized by coaching Little League, not all the kids are the same, just like not all of your cats are the same. So being able to explain things in different ways so that you can get the best out of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you brought up a good point. This, I don't necessarily believe this is not new information. I just think we forget sometimes, or we don't know how to apply it everywhere, right? Because we all have experienced that. We know inherently that people are not the same. We all inherently know that people don't learn the same way. So that's why I like this book, and why I'm glad that it's a quick book, because it really is just a reminder. Oh, that's right. I've got to adjust. And again, the noting that it is task oriented, because that same waitress, after she gets all those questions answered, she's going to be a D4, but she's going to have a new set of answers because she's highly committed people. That's your D1s and your D4. Those are the ones that they're excited. They're going to be the ones that stay. And you've got to keep that excitement so they don't drop because you can have a D4 learner and they can drop into a D3. You can have a D1 learner and they go up to a 2. They have to go through a 2. They have to go to the 3 to get to the 4. But again, you've got to make sure you stay highly supportive in that transition from D2 to D3, and be very careful if you see a D4 drop into a D3. Okay. So again, you guys will have the study guides and everything. So when I'm asking you, okay, especially if I'm working with you, if someone on the team is working with you and they say, okay, is that person a D1 or D2? Right? Now you're going to know what we mean. Okay, how are you going to come out at this? Are you going to come at it as a D4 or D3? Okay. All right, let's see. Who else? We've got Chris. Chris, are you able to unmute? I don't think she is. Okay. Like I hear you, I see your lips moving, but I can't actually hear you, Chris.
To say she's there with Christy too. So you got 2 of them on one line.
Oh, perfect. Let's see if they'll.
Okay, that better?
Yeah.
Okay, that better? Yep, okay, that better? Yep, okay.
It's better.
Yeah, it's not going.
Hang on.
Let's see.
I just like it, Nick, to where you break it down to where there's different levels of learning and coaching and giving them that extra pep and confidence in that can actually do things.
Yes.
You want to stay there? Uh-oh.
It's a little choppy.
And it was like I was telling Christy here, it doesn't cost you a darn thing to go up to somebody and say, hey, great job. You're doing excellent. Let's see if we can push the bar. It doesn't cost you a darn thing to do that.
Agreed. Chris,
and they appreciate it.
Yeah, where's my mini-me?
Yep.
Chris, where's my mini-me? There she is.
She is.
She's right here.
Hi. Hi, Christy.
She's frozen.
Yeah, they both are.
I just like that that I've learned it costs more to recruit than it does to retain. Hi.
I can't see your face, Christy. There you are.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys were.
If you think about the costs for the labor costs, just labor costs alone, someone having to place an ad, having to get the interviews, having to see all of the interviews, and then onboarding, that's a lot of labor costs. Versus if you can retain someone, if you can retain a D2 and D3 by making them a D3 into a D4, if you can change that commitment level by being supportive, it's going to cost you a whole lot less overall. Okay. And then Cam, you gave us your notes. Yep. Thank you. How about Taylor?
I don't know if she's on.
I think she's on.
Is she?
Yep. And then I have a Z. Okay. Well, while we are waiting for those, does Kira, Tammy, Scotty, do you guys have any feedback for the group?
I think I've been talking this whole time.
No, I thought the group did amazing. I like the way they were engaged with it and they were finding ways to make positive, especially I like Cam, the redirecting. I love, if y'all know me, y'all know I'm all about being positive. So I love that.
Well, I say this, when it comes to keeping it positive, I talked a lot about that in the beginning of the year. For those of you that have seen the manager meetings, that's a big thing for me this year is keeping it positive, right? How do we create a fun environment if we are treating our casts poorly? We have got to preach what we teach. We have to do what we say. So we have to be positive so that your cast also is positive and they can create that over-the-top experience. How much easier is it to be happy and create a happy environment for someone than when inside you're not feeling very well, right? Or you're feeling engaged or you're feeling uncommitted. Because then we're asking them to bring it up from somewhere else instead of it just being right here. We talked about that sense of belonging. And if your cast feels like they belong, that they feel like they're in on it, like we talked about with the goals in the beginning, if they feel a part of it, you're going to get the most out of your cast. And you're going to retain that high commitment group.
I absolutely agree with you. And Cameron and I we had a meeting today over the phone that we dealt with a situation with one of the leaders that we had in our location who was no longer with us. They like for the management to be as engaged as they are. So if they see us in the trenches with them, it does make them feel like they're a part of something greater. You know what I mean? That's something that's amazing. And if you do your little shift, rallies at the beginning of the shift and get them pumped and positive and give them those goals that are set and then praise them as we're going along, it does make them work, more efficient. I mean, they work hard to get to those goals. They're asking how close they are, so it helps with management being on the floor. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, the manager that we got complaints, he's in the office the whole night and they're leaving the responsibility to us, which just pulls down the whole entire team. So, I mean, yeah, the praise, that's so important. It's so important because when people feel good, they want to try harder. Just like the energy that I speak of that we present, on the floor that Cameron will give to the floor or North Hollywood now talking on the mic and the entertainers are excited. It makes everybody feel good. And when your guests feel good, what do they want to do? They
spend more
money.
They spend more.
So
they stay longer.
That's the key.
I see Z switch cameras. Z, do you want to talk about what you learned?
Z, what did you learn?
I'm still new to the process, but I did learn that in order to move up, we have to be accountable for what we're going through and the things that we're learning from the higher ups as far as moving up into a new position. So we have to be open to everything and also use these practices when we're dealing with fellow cast members as well.
Absolutely.
Kind of coaching and shadowing.
Yes.
What was that, Anissa? Sorry.
A lot of coaching and shadowing.
Yes, a lot of coaching and a lot of shouting. Yes. Again, I cannot tell you guys enough. When someone is in that D2, that D3 learning style, when their commitment is low because of their competence, because of their confidence, that is when you have to be supportive. That's not when you want to beat them up. That's not when you want to reprimand them too harshly. You need to reprimand them, yes, because you got to get them back on track. You don't want to create an area of which bad habits are created. And then, that's the norm. You don't want to create that environment, but you do want to make sure that you are being very supportive. That's when you want to explain more. That's the highly directive. You want to explain more and give them the why. Tell them why this is important so that they understand their part in this grandiose scheme. Make sure that your team no one on your team feels less than someone else on the team, because at the end of the day, we cannot create this fantasy for our venues without every person on that team. Everybody is responsible. If everybody stays in that lane, in their lane, you're going to be committed to the mission statement. You're going to give outrageous service. You're going to create that over the top experience. You're going to create all of those things, but you need your whole cast. How many of you have felt when you're short staffed? You can feel it, right? You can feel it when your staff isn't feeling well. So you've got to be in there. You've got it at the top. I'm going to tell this story and then I'll wrap things up in case any of my other teammates have some comments, but get your own accountability partner. I was so excited. Our group, we had our first team call last week, and I loved how everybody was kind of, talking and helping each other. It just gets me excited. Get you an accountability partner. If you have someone in your team, on this larger team, get you an accountability partner. Our team, we're all accountability partners. Scotty will tell us when we're not turning in our stuff on time. Tammy will make sure that I'm not thinking negatively, and I'll do the same for her. Kira keeps us all positive and on point. Andrea keeps us focused. Like, we all have a part in making sure that we have these things going. And that's what keeps us together. And believe me, we go through our D1, D4 learning stages too. For me, I'll be very honest. learning the reporting or learning what the contracts in the clubs. I was a D1 at that. Now I've moved up into the D3, D4, depending on the contract. I can waiver, right? But we all go through it. So don't think you're alone. If you don't know something, tell somebody, hey, I want to do this, but I have no idea what I'm doing, right? And then hopefully they're going to give you the support that you need. So be honest of where you are, and I'm sure you're going to have somebody on your team, or if not on your team, reach out to us, to any of us, and we will help you. Cameron, again, so the story Tammy and I have, we were sitting in the office. All of a sudden, it sounded like 100 people were in the main part of the building. And we walk out, it is Cam and 5 other people, but they are having a party. And Marcus, I know that that's what you want to do. I know that you have the confidence and you have the competence to get there. And that's why I was like, hey, I really want Cam to come out and show you and help you, because that's you. You just need to see it done. And then I know you can rock it, just like you did on Saturday. But I know you could take that Saturday, and instead of having a $6,000 night, you can have your $10,000 night, because you just need the confidence and you just need for it to be seen. So thank you guys all. Does anyone else on the Team Unite want to have any last comments before we let everybody back on their Mondays?
I think the only thing I want to add is, for Marcus, don't just limit that high energy to a Saturday. I mean, the point that I love so much about Cameron was, it wasn't a weekend night.
It was a
Tuesday, and he treated it as if it were a Saturday night, and there were 300 people in the building. Yeah. So you are an entertainer. All of us are entertainers. So
no, Marcus actually is an entertainer, though. And that's why I'm so excited about Marcus in North Hollywood. He's truly an entertainer, even outside of the Deja Vu realm. So I'll let Marcus tell his own story.
I'm excited to see what Marcus will do in North Hollywood. I'm so excited for him. Marcus, I've heard nothing but great things about you, just to let you know.
Thank you. I'm shy, but I'm an entertainer.
Kara, do you have any last? Oh, Scotty, are you still on? I know you're doing a contract. Okay,
Cameron,
we'll get Cameron is saying, keep crushing it, Marcus.
Appreciate it.
Kira, do you have any last words for the group?
No, I think, Tammy, that was a really good point. A lot of times we get so focused on thinking that it needs to be super busy all the time, but we get that per head up, and you can turn a 20 guest night into a really, really, really good night. So if we're always in that party mode, and we're always positive, and we're always really pushing our staff and working with them, every night's a good night.
Yeah, yep. I agree. All right, we are a few minutes over, only 5 minutes though. So we're only 5 minutes over. Thank you all. This is going to be on our YouTube channel, so I'll let you guys know once we upload it. We like to do just a little bit of editing just for housekeeping, making it pretty on site. So it won't be today, but it will be this week. All right. And again, not that I feel like I'm not getting a dime for this book, but if you can, grab the book, or at least look out for your study guide. Okay. And again, if you're on my team, you're going to be quizzed on this. So there you go. All right. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.